Welcome to the final Oracy Bitesize. This one's going to focus on how to prepare successfully for Oracy tasks. As always, this will relate to all aspects of the teacher benchmarks and will hopefully support you in ensuring that talk is task focused and the right kind of social, emotional according to the Oracy framework. When planning for an Oracy based task, consider first the reason you want them to talk. On a very broad level, is this exploratory talk or presentational talk? Exploratory talk could involve solving a problem collaboratively, discussing an issue, explaining or interpreting a diagram with a group, engaging in role play, exploring a text analytically or evaluatively with a partner, whereas presentational talk, on the other hand, could be participation in a formal debate, hosting an event, giving a presentation, or just answering a teacher's question, when the focus obviously is sharing rather than understanding. Once you know what type of talk, exploratory or presentational, you want your students to do, you next need to consider the audience for this talk. Is it you as the teacher? Is it the whole class? Is it just a partner, one partner? Is it a small group? So this is where you might consider the more physical sides of talk and look at groupings and seating plans. You could set an Oracy seating plan that you come back to regularly. You might also want to consider the listening ladder. In what ways do the audience need preparing as much as the speaker? Once you know the why and the who, you can start building success criteria using the Oracy framework. Start by asking yourself questions. Where do I want them positioned during this talk? Who do I want them to talk with? Is there anything they need to know before they talk? What vocabulary might be useful? You can then build the success criteria yourself and share with the group, or potentially build the criteria with them. There's nothing secret about the Oracy framework. It would be good for them to become familiar with it as well. By this point, you'll have done most of the work and you'll know which aids and scaffolds will be needed to further support the task. This may be a reminder of shape, or a projection of the ground rules, or going through the success criteria. It might be a set of talk prompts, or an outline structure for debate or Socratic talk, or it might be some questions you have up your sleeve to develop the conversation. You want to avoid cumulative talk, where contributions build on each other but go unchallenged, so ideas are simply bounced around and there's not actually any productive development in learning. And then you also want to avoid disputational talk, which is where competitive contributions are not supported with any reason or evidence, and this sort of talk often ends in full-blown Lord of the Flies arguments, or it just fizzles out into nothing. So aids and scaffolds will help keep the conversation on track and chugging along purposefully, exploratively and effectively to the end goal. Here we have an example taken from Amy Gaunt and Alice Stott, the Oracy imperative of such planning. Now this planning could be really formalised and students given copies to self-assess, or you could give feedback on their performance there and then. Alternatively, you may simply project the success criteria for the duration of the talk, or it could just be guidelines in your head that help ensure that the talk task is purposeful. It depends what the task and the intended outcomes are ultimately. The expectation is not that every single think, pair, share, or turn and talk, or teacher-student question and answer session is planned as meticulously as this, although in time you'll find that you are thinking of all of these things anyway. However, if you are someone who is concerned about how to manage behaviour and focus during Oracy tasks, having a well-prepared and structured task with clear outlines and a reasonable goal to reach will make a huge difference. So quickly before I finish, just two more scaffolds that may help. These are the Voice 21 groupings to support different types of talk. Most of these you'll be familiar with, so this is really just a reminder that groupings don't have to be simply 4 people talking, or even 1 person talking, the rest just passively listening, or not listening as the case may be. Play around with groupings, see what works for both you and your different classes. There is also snowball grouping, where you essentially do a think, pair, share, but you ask pairs and groups to settle on one thing that they agree on, one thing they disagree on. So you start with one person thinking, they discuss with a partner, that pair connects with another pair, that quad connects with another quad, until the whole class is trying to work out something that they agree or disagree on. It's quite interesting with snowballing to witness how group dynamics works. Then you can also utilise the reciprocal reading type approach, or some may know it as De Bono's thinking hats, or Voice 21 like to talk about talk tactics, of assigning roles to each group member. So this helps students to talk more objectively and think about what they might be able to say, rather than simply saying, I don't know anything and therefore I can't contribute. It does take time to train them up, so don't worry if the first few times you try this it fails and no one really says anything or they don't stick to their roles. It just takes a bit of time for them to get into the groove with it. Oracy tasks in general will take a bit of time to develop and embed as students learn the skills and learn that they have to lean in and participate, and that you are not going to let them not do that. So here ends this term's Oracy Bitesize. I hope these have been helpful, and I look forward to seeing all of this in action in the coming months. Please do shout if you would like any more guidance or support, or to talk through any of the aids and scaffolds that I have talked about in the Bitesize. Thanks.